been a while. Sorry for the delay in videos, but exciting news! I might have accidentally bought an aeroplane. Well, that's not strictly true. I bought a share in an aeroplane. Yes, I have joined a syndicate after much umming and ahhing over different options and some very helpful advice I got in the flyer forums. I've decided the best thing to do at the moment, until I get my experience up, is to join a syndicate, so that way I can tap into the knowledge of the other owners of the aircraft, as well as share all the costs involved. So that is the route I've gone down for the minute. My long-term plan, though, is still to build an aeroplane. I just love the thought of doing that, so I'll still be looking into that. But just for the minute, I'll be in a syndicate. So what plane have I gone for? Ooh. So, well, it's quite an interesting story. I was turned down by a couple of syndicates because of my low hours. I've been only done sort of 45, well, now 47. So I was struggling to find a syndicate who would accept me, which was quite disappointing, a bit disheartening. And I was just up at Compton Abbas, and then the main shareholder of this plane I've bought into happened to turn up when I was there. Very nice chap called Phil. And Graham in Ops just mentioned to Phil that I was looking for a syndicate share. I'm just going to concentrate for a minute because it's a hateful road around here. It's super narrow, and a big wide car doesn't help. So yeah, Phil then approached me and we had a really nice chat, and we went around the aircraft. I loved it, and he even took me on a little flight that day. It was brilliant. I really enjoyed the flight. And then we had a meeting with the rest of the syndicate, all really nice guys from all different walks of life. And that was it, I was sold. So I plumped up my cash and off we go. So what plane is it? Well, I'm just going there now. I do have a lesson, a difference training lesson with an instructor. And I have had one already, but I haven't videoed it. I don't think I will video the conversion lessons because it's going to be very dull and boring and nothing which hasn't been covered in the lessons I had in the Piper. So the aircraft is a Eurostar EV, so it's Echo Victor 97A, and that A is important because the EV97 is actually classed as a microlight. Now, if you're anything like me, I've always thought of microlights as those sort of hang glider things with a engine on the back and a propeller. But this just looks like a regular aeroplane. So it's a gorgeous looking plane. It's got a bubble canopy as well, so the visibility is fantastic. But the EV97 is a microlight, which means that although I can fly it under my private pilot's license, none of the hours count towards my SEP, my single engine piston rating. So I can't count them in the hours that I need to do each year to keep myself current. But what Phil has done on this EV97 is converted it into an SEP aircraft, or Group A as it's colloquially known. And the only thing he had to do that was to stick an electric fuel pump in it. That is it. So it's exactly the same aircraft as the microlight, just with a fuel pump. And that adds an extra 30 kilograms to the maximum takeoff weight as well, just by having a fuel pump. It's crazy. So that means all the hours I put in with Eurostar count towards my SEP rating, which is brilliant. And the great thing with the Eurostar is, being that it's a home build, the maintenance costs are a lot lower, because we as a syndicate can do a lot of the maintenance ourselves. It still requires annuals and things, but they're a lot cheaper than your regular certified aircraft. So that's great in terms of cost saving. And also, the fuel that you use isn't your regular Avgas 100. You can use normal car petrol, Mogas as it's called. Now you can use regular unleaded. God, some of these car drivers are crazy. He was right on my side of the road there. You can use regular unleaded, but it's recommended to use super unleaded, so that's what we use. Now the engine can still run on avgas, it's just not recommended. It can actually, over a period of time, can actually damage it. So if you're in an emergency and you need fuel urgently and the only airfield that you can find has got avgas, then that's fine. You can use it now and then if you need to, but otherwise you stick with regular car petrol, which is brilliant. That saves a fortune as well. So the running costs of the Eurostar are minuscule compared to something like the Piper Warrior. So that's a real bonus. Now, the insurance company have insisted, and quite frankly I don't blame them, and quite frankly I would have done this anyway, they have insisted on I fly at least 10 hours with either a certified instructor or with one of the other syndicate members. And that's a great idea. I mean, I would never have flown this aircraft without some kind of instruction. So what I'm doing the first 5 hours with a chap called Charlie, who's an instructor at Compton. He's an extremely experienced pilot, and particularly in the light aircraft, and he's got tons of hours in this idiot. Unbelievable. He's got tons of hours in the Eurostar, and I've had one lesson with him already, as I've already said, and he's great. He's really good. He's teaching me everything that I need to know, and the first lesson went really well, and he has said that after the lesson today, which touch and go whether it's going to happen, after the lesson today I probably won't need any more instruction, but I'm going to have 5 hours with Charlie. We'll probably do a few landaways as well, just so I can tap into his knowledge and get really comfortable with the Eurostar. Then after I hit the 5 hours, the other syndicate members, particularly Phil and Des, have volunteered to sit with me and supervise me for my remaining 5 hours to take me to the 10 hours. And then once I've hit those 10 hours, then the insurance company is happy for me to fly solo and take passengers. The other downside is they have loaded the excess slightly. So instead of £250 excess, I've got to cope with a £2,000 excess. Oh God almighty. So I'm kind of hoping I'm not going to need to use the insurance, but if I do, I've got to plump up £2,000. So I'm on my way to Compton right now. I've got a lesson with Charlie at 11. Now I'm looking at the clouds. They are around about 2,000 feet. It's not supposed to be getting any worse than this, with a few little rain showers. Now, the Eurostar can obviously fly in rain, and I have flown in rain once, and that was on the skills test. Oh God, don't remind me. So I don't mind going up in these. I mean, if I was on my own, I probably wouldn't go up. These are below my minimums. But Charlie might well be fine with going up in these conditions, so I'll have a chat with him about it. Wind-wise, now the Eurostar can only take off in the crosswinds no more than 16 knots. Now, at the moment, according to the Met Office, we're going to have a headwind of about 26 knots, which is quite high. But it's pretty much, if we take off the 2.6, which we will be, then there's virtually no crosswind component, so that's fine. What is going to be interesting is we land the Eurostar at around about 65 miles per hour, and that's the difference between the Eurostar and the Piper, is that the airspeed indicator is all in miles per hour rather than knots. So I'm just having to reprogram myself a little bit there. That does mean, with the headwind being as high as it is, we're going to be coming in around about sort of 10-20 miles an hour. So it's almost stationary. It's going to be very strange. I don't know if that is allowable. So again, I'm going to have a chat with Charlie about that. not entirely sure why it wouldn't be, as long as the aircraft is flying. So that's ground speed I'm talking about, not airspeed. The airspeed will still be around about 65 miles per hour, but the ground speed, because of the headwind, is going to be considerably lower than that. So, as I say, I'll have a chat with Charlie and see what he says about that one. I mean, if we can't go up, we can't go up, so be it. That is general aviation for you. You are very much a slave to the weather. In terms of the aircraft itself, so I went up with Phil initially, and then I had the first lesson with Charlie last week, and I tell you what, it's like a little fighter. It's just so manoeuvrable. It's chalk and cheese to the Piper, obviously being a lot lighter, and there's also a stick rather than a yoke, and the throttle, rather than having the levers you have on the Piper, it's just like a pull out, pull in knob, which takes a little bit of getting used to. But the manoeuvrability is incredible. You only have to sniff at the control and whoosh, off you go. A lot more rudder involved compared to the Warrior. Let's give just 1 second while I just concentrate parking without crashing into other cars. And being that the aircraft is so light, very susceptible to turbulence. Luckily last week it was pretty calm, but looking at today, it's going to be pretty turbulent out there. My gut feeling is that we're not going to go up, because I've just arrived. I'm looking at the windsock. It's pretty high wind, although as I say, it's a near-on headwind. It might be all right, but it might be a bit too overpowering for the Eurostar to cope with. And obviously in aviation, if in doubt, stay on the ground. What's that famous phrase? It's better to be on the ground wishing you're in the air than being in the air and wishing you're on the ground. It's a good motto to live by there. Yeah, so the handling is very different to the Warrior. And the other thing with the Eurostar is that it loses speed so fast. With the Warrior, you shut the power off and it just carries on ploughing through at speed. But the Eurostar drops speed so fast, and that was really demonstrated when we came into land on the last lesson, where we shut the power off, and my goodness, we landed and we nearly came off the runway straight away. We slowed down so quickly, it was incredible. Whereas the Warrior would take sort of 3/4 of the length to stop. This is with no brakes, by the way. Obviously it would stop a lot quicker than that, but on the grass runway, Compton have always asked us not to use the brakes, just to not damage the grass, basically. But the Eurostar stops so fast, it's incredible. And the other difference is the Eurostar is quite a bit slower than the Warrior. It's not a big issue. I'm in no rush to get anywhere, but we are sort of cruising around about 80-ish miles an hour compared to the Warrior, which is around about 120-ish miles per hour, so quite a big difference there. But the plane is fantastic. I'm loving it. Also, I have never look at A4's website. There's a beautiful Piper PA-22 tri-pacer, commonly known as the milk stool, and I love it. It's a gorgeous aircraft, super affordable as well. I thought, so I'm trying to stay away from A4s because that PA-22 looks fantastic. Anyway, I've got my share. I won't buy an airplane just yet. So what we'll do then, I'll go and see what Charlie wants to do today. I will make a little video in a minute of the airplane so you can have a look around it. As I mentioned, I'm not going to video any of the flying just yet. I will get back to videoing the flights as soon as I finish my difference training. If the other guys are happy with it, I will video the flights with the syndicate members, but I won't record the lessons. See you in a bit. So here she is. What a beauty. I've just finished another lesson in it and it was fantastic. Look at that. I will do a much longer video going through all the controls and what's going on inside the cockpit, but for now I need to put her to bed. We're ready for our next trip. See See you soon. Hope you liked the video. And if you did, please hit the like button. Even better, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. See you next time.